It's gonna say it's me, so we're gonna change the name.
That's from a PAO perspective.
Okay.
There's a way to do that, yep.
Oh, yeah, right there.
Yep.
And that's where a paper and it's
Right.
digital.
Yep,
you know,
you got it.
you still
Okay,
have to-
there you are. They're in.
The only thing I'm
Can you
gonna
hear-
try to
can
do
you
this
hear me?
year to get a younger.
Need
reader
anything
is
else?
I'm doing the old decoder.
See if
reader.
we're good.
You need the mic on or anything?
Yeah, if I can just stay here for 10 minutes.
Yep, and there's the mic and then the video. You want the video on?
Take you
So they
through
see you?
business,
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, you get your scavenger,
There you go.
and the paper weekly. And it's a big.
Look at here, this.
Those are two things. But, you know, that's-
Hey, Jared,
I'll see you guys. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Guys. Yes, sir.
you okay?
Wherever you prefer. Yeah. Where's that down there? Probably on kind of. That's fine. Yeah. It's flush. And the grand scheme of things, well. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Miss Diana Arnold. Mr. Kevin Beatty. Kevin has, the city has a case being heard with Indiana Supreme Court today, and he's using that opportunity to advocate for some projects in Indianapolis, so Kevin gets a pass this afternoon. Honorable Scott Bates. Here. Honorable John Black.
Here.
Honorable Bernard Bowling. Here. Honorable Byron Chapman. Honorable Jack Hoffman. Mr. Brian Dixon. Honorable Troy Ethington. Mr. Chris John Streets for the Honorable Jeff Gahan. Honorable Nicole George for the Honorable Craig Greenberg. Mr. Keith Griffey. Here earlier. Mr. Albert Tubby Purcell for the Honorable Treva Hodges. Here. Honorable Maria Johnson.
Hmm.
Honorable Dan Ison. Here. Honorable Mike Moore. Honorable John Ogburn. Here. Mr. Matt Munay for the Honorable Carol Pike. Here. Honorable John Schellenberger. I see you on the screen.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Jerry Summers. I see you on there, Judge. Honorable Rick Tonini. Here. Honorable Jim Travis. Honorable Scott Travis. Here. And the Honorable David Vogel. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to welcome everybody to the July meeting of KIPDA. And with that, we'll get right on. It looks like we've got a pretty heavy agenda. Everyone should have received a copy of the May board meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or changes or motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion to approve and second, all in favor? Aye. The minutes stand approved. Next item, May financial statements. Freedom?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so first, we're gonna look at our fiscal year 24 summary of element. And as of May 31st of 2024, we're 92% through the fiscal year 24. On the second column, which is our expenses, our CED total spend was $818,843. Further down, we have our total spend for transportation, which is $2,563,199. And then our social services total is $4,913,194. And our agency operating cost is the $8,858,877. And program related is $18,553,012 for our total of $27,000,000 $6,411,889. Next, we're looking at our agency-wide line item revenues and expenditures. And I'm going to page 30, and giving you the current revenues, which is $3,269,347. And then our year-to-date revenue is the $27,384, $510 or $511. And then we're going on to page 32 for our current expenditure, which is $2,244,082. Current year-to-date, or the year-to-date expenditures is $27,411,889. And we have spent approximately 81.36% as of May. Going on to page 33 for our balance sheet. We have our cash at $1,799,805. And our total receivables at $2,944,952. And total liabilities at $19,517,560. And our total liabilities and projects at $9,270,661. Do I have any questions? Thank you, that's the request.
Seeing no one has any questions about the finances, I'll entertain a motion to accept Frida's report. So moved. Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is our guest speaker who's going to speak to us about medical cannabis program. I'll let Jared introduce it.
It's my honor to welcome Sam Flynn, who's the Executive Director of the Office of Medical Cannabis. Sam spoke to our group of Area Development District Executive Directors a couple of months ago. And I know in this board meeting in April, there was a lot of discussion with the implementation of the new law of medical cannabis. So it's a great opportunity to have Sam here. He's going to give a presentation and also be able to answer questions. So Sam, thank you again for being here today. And
thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'm actually going to stand up. It's a pleasure to meet you all. My name is Sam Flynn. I'm Executive Director for Kentucky's Office of Medical Cannabis. I'm joined today by Alyssa Erickson, who's seated right back here in the middle. Who is our Director of Education and Outreach, and somebody that you may be finding yourself in contact with in the near future, as well as our intern for our program, Sophia Boswell, who is here as well. So Kentucky Medical Cannabis Program. First of all, thank you for having us here. It's an honor to be able to share a little bit about what's going on with medical cannabis in the Commonwealth. Where we've been, where we are, and where we're heading in the near future. So we have a little bit of a presentation. I do know that a lot of you will have questions, so I'm going to talk very fast. I apologize about that, but I do want to get to your questions, and I will answer questions until you stop having questions. So we're going to talk a little bit about So we're going to talk a little bit about our program. We're going to talk about what's happened with legislation. So again, how we got here, Senate Bill 47 from last year, some of the changes that were made this year, as well as a regulatory update. So what regs have we put in place from an executive branch standpoint, what those regulations mean. We're also going to talk a little bit about how the laws and regulations impact local government. So this is, again, very important for you all as local community leaders and policymakers. We're going to talk about the opt-in and opt-out, what that means, what that looks like, and sort of where we are currently with some of the jurisdictions out there. And then we'll get to questions. So about us, Kentucky Medical Cannabis Program sits in the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. It is a program currently because we did not have an organizational structure. We will have one as of July 1. It will be the Office of Medical Cannabis. We're charged with the implementation of this program, the sorry, wow, I can't speak. Charged with overseeing this program, sorry, that's better. Charged with overseeing this program, and ensuring that, it is a safe and secure program here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and that our licensees are following all the laws and rules that they're required to follow, and that our patients are following the rules that they're required to follow as well. I will never use that word again. Our mission is to ensure that Kentuckians suffering with severe medical conditions have safe, affordable access to medical cannabis. This is a two-way street. We want to make sure that people that have conditions like cancer and PTSD and epilepsy, seizure disorders, again, post-traumatic stress, and some other serious conditions, that they have access to medical cannabis. This is what our policymakers have told us to do. The General Assembly, this is what we're going to do. Like I said, it's a two-way street. We also are going to make sure that anybody who does not have one of those conditions, who is not eligible, does not have access to medical cannabis. So again, our program is focused on being safe for patients. We want to have safe products. We want to make sure that this is kept out of the hands of children, and we want to make sure that it's secure in our communities. So very important for us. This is our executive leadership team. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I do want to mention that our office structure, we have two important pieces. We have a licensure and access division. That division is focused on making sure businesses you can go ahead and get licensed. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And also that patients starting January 1st can go ahead and apply and get cards. We also have an enforcement and compliance division. Enforcement and compliance division is going to be the ones that go out into the community to all of these businesses and make sure that they're following the laws and rules that we've set forth, that the General Assembly has set forth in statute, that we've set forth in regulation, to make sure that, again, that this is a safe and secure program in your communities. All right, we also have two boards that are administratively attached to us. One is a statutory board made up of physicians, APRNs, and now a pharmacist that advises us on the medical aspects of this program. So what kind of conditions should be added to the list, or what kind of conditions should be taken off the list? How much THC should be in a serving size, for example? Those are some of the things that the Board of Physicians and Advisors advises us on and makes recommendations to us where it concerns regulatory matters, and advises the General Assembly where it concerns statutory matters. We also have the Team Kentucky Medical Cannabis Work Group, created by executive order October 5th of last year. Advises on the sort of the larger policy questions that we're going to have related to medical cannabis. This is a regulated business, like all kinds of regulated businesses. It brings unique challenges. One of the things that work group has done, for example, is, as we know, every business has to follow the occupational safety and health laws of the state or of the federal government, depending on whether it's a state plan state or not. Kentucky and our medical cannabis work group really took the challenges that the cannabis industry faces from an employer and employee standpoint, occupational safety and health, and developed an occupational safety and health guide. That guide, we're one of the first states in the country to have that at the outset of our program. We're very proud of that, trying to address these problems before they become problems. And we're also going to be working with this work group to provide guidance for law enforcement officers in the near future, something that is very important. I think you'll all agree. So moving on from these boards to our authorizing legislation. So Senate Bill 47, 2023, you probably all saw it in the newspaper or in the news at some point in time. That bill was passed in March, signed into law. If you have questions about, what the law actually says, KRS Chapter 218B is where it's codified. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the LRC website. That's the place to go and look and see what the law actually says currently. And again, we're charged with implementing the program. So bit of a timeline. Senate Bill 47 signed. I was appointed to this position June 1st of last year. The executive order creating the work group was October 5th. By January 4th, we filed our first 10 regulations. Those regulations govern how cannabis businesses can operate in the Commonwealth. So, and we'll talk about the license types, but how a dispensary can operate, for example. March 14th, we issued regulations for how Kentuckians with those severe medical conditions that we've talked about, right? The PTSD, cancer, epilepsy, et cetera, how they can go about applying for a card. What are the rules when they have a card? Rules on transportation, rules on storage, rules on who can purchase what and when, and rules on how much medical cannabis is available to those individuals. Also talks about how physicians and APRNs can write certifications for medical cannabis for folks. And if you have questions, that's sort of at the end of the presentation. We can get to that on an individual basis, but I will not be covering that today. So again, those were issued. Governor signed House Bill 829, has some impacts on local governments. We'll talk about that. And then on April 18th, we filed our final regulations related to licensing and applications, which again will impact local governments. What House Bill 829 did in large part was move up the licensing timeline to July 1 of this year. Why is that important? Well, under the previous law, we would not be able to hand a license to anybody until January 1 of 2025. That was the same date on which cardholders would, our patients in Kentucky would be able to apply for a card. Well, if I'm a cardholder and, you know, the business X is just getting a license, chances are I'm not going to be able to purchase my medicine for a long, long time. General Assembly recognized that that was problematic. We agreed with them and we worked with them on some language to get that timeline moved up. Again, so July 1st, that's in a couple days, we will begin opening our application portal for businesses to apply. Again, January 1st, 2025, first day, Kentuckians can apply for cards. So new legislation, House Bill 829, well, first House Bill 6, the budget bill. There was some talk, and I'll just cover this briefly. There was some talk that we would not have funding for our office and that none of this would get off the ground. There was some contingent language in the budget bill. Basically, the Board of Physicians and Advisors, who we talked about earlier, needed to make a finding that there was scientific research that was peer reviewed and published that supported medical cannabis as efficacious for persistent reduction of symptoms of diseases and conditions. That group has met and made that finding. I will also note that the FDA, U.S. Department for Health and Human Services and the National Institute on Drug Abuse has said that there's a currently accepted medical use for cannabis. So I want to get that covered. So House Bill 829 creates an office to administer the program. We talked about that. Moves up the timeline. Places some restrictions and notice requirements on local governments. We'll get to that. Adds a pharmacist to the Board of Physicians and Advisors. Clarifies that although we're moving up this timeline, dispensaries cannot sell cannabis prior to January 1 of 2025. And then requires us to provide some advisory pamphlets to, or requires dispensaries to provide pamphlets to anyone the first time they purchase medical cannabis and then on a yearly basis thereafter. Finally, it removes the provisional receipt loophole. This is important. I want to highlight this just because I want to convey to you all that our intention is that we're not just following what the law says, but we're following the intent of the law. And again, the intent of the law is that folks that have serious conditions can access medical cannabis and those who can't, don't. Provisional receipt loophole. So the way the law was previously written, an individual on January 1 of 2025 could go and apply for a card. Regardless of whether we approved or denied them, they would have received a receipt and then been able to go out and purchase 45 days of medical cannabis. Let's say we denied them, they could continue doing that over and over and over again. So basically, it would have created a quasi-adult use market in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We recognized that was a problem. We went to the General Assembly and we got that closed. So again, our values are that we're making sure that this is safe and secure and that we're following not just the letter of the law, but the intent as well. We filed 17 regulations. We talked about those. These are our license types. So cultivators, processors, producers, safety compliance facilities, that's testing lab, and dispensaries. Cultivators, all has to be grown indoors here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. They generate raw plant material. Pretty straightforward. Processors, they process raw plant material into finished products like edibles, for example. So the gummies that a cancer patient may need to take to treat the pain associated with their condition. Producer, it's a hybrid of a cultivator and a processor together. Again, safety compliance facilities and testing labs, dispensaries. Very important to note on dispensaries. One of the main questions we get is, well, is this gonna be like one of those smoke shops or vape shops that we've got? We've got those popping up all over the place. No, the answer is no. This is going to be a pharmacy-like experience. And what I mean by that is we don't allow food sales. We don't allow drink sales. We don't allow the hemp-derived Delta-8 cannabinoid products that you might see in these smoke shops. Also, as I mentioned before, we're focused on not just the letter, but the intent of the law. The law says that smoking is prohibited. And so we don't allow anything that would allow you to smoke medical cannabis to be sold in any of these facilities. There are strict rules related to the types of locking mechanisms, surveillance equipment that's required, lighting that's required, as well as age gating around the types of people that are allowed into the building. For example, nobody under the age of 18 is allowed into the building. Nobody under the age of 21 is allowed to purchase a vaporization product. We can talk a little bit more about some of this later. Again, so security requirements, testing, strict requirements on testing of the products. We want these things safe. This is medicine. We want it to be medical grade products only. Surveillance and alarm systems, very strict on this, physical security as well, and age restrictions that I mentioned. So, number of licenses. There will be 10 tier 1 cultivators in the Commonwealth. So that's up to 2,500 square feet. It's probably about the size of this room. 10 of those, and that's canopy space for the cultivators. Tier 2, 4 10,000 square foot facilities, and 2 tier 3. We will not be issuing any in the tier 4 category. That's 50,000 square foot. That's just over an acre, or that would be just over an acre of indoor growing space. Processors, there will be 10, dispensaries 48, and we'll talk about the dispensaries here in a moment. Just a note on dispensaries. So Ohio, their medical program had about 120. They're almost 3 times our population. West Virginia is just over a third of our population. They have 55. Reasons for the distinctions there is geography. And we'll talk a little bit about how geography impacts our program. Safety compliance facilities, that's the testing labs. No limitation on those. Anywhere between 2 and 5 of those generally pop up in any given state. So we didn't put any limitation on that initially. So dispensaries, how are they going to be allocated? We're focused on access in our program. We want to make sure that there's not healthcare deserts. We also want to make sure from a security standpoint that unlike, let's say you've been to Michigan lately, or you've been to Colorado, or you've been to Oregon, you might see dispensaries on every corner. This prevents that from happening. So our dispensary regions, there's 11 of them. No more than 4 in each region, except for this region, and the Fayette County region. And the reason for that is that there are 2 dispensaries allocated to our 2 largest counties, based on the population. And then there will be 4 dispensaries allocated for those counties surrounding. No more than 1 dispensary, with the exception of Jefferson and Fayette County, no more than 1 dispensary per county. Make sure that it's spread out. Make sure that, folks have access across the state. We don't want people from Pike County driving all the way to Lexington to get their medicine, as you might have heard some folks have to do in other situations. So how do we do that? We based it on a drive time analysis. We worked with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to help us find regions based on ideal hypothetical where businesses set up in larger population centers to ensure that most Kentuckians, if not all Kentuckians, are within an hour's drive time And based on, an ideal map, only 3,000 Kentuckians are outside of an hour's drive time under these scenarios. Now, will all our dispensaries be located, such that this is what the map looks like? No. But once we do have the location of all our dispensaries, we'll be able to rerun these numbers and see where there's access deserts. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this, talked about, so there's a non-refundable application fee. This is the process for applications. So starts next week on Monday, goes to August 31st. It's an online application. If an applicant is in any way deficient in their application, we give them an opportunity to cure that. So they get 10 days to cure it. At the end of this process, October 1st, we let folks know whether they have a sufficient application or a deficient application. If it's deficient, they're denied and they're out. If it's sufficient, it's complete and they're in for our license lottery. And that's how we will be allocating these licenses. So if you have a complete application, you've hopped over all the bars that we've set for you, you get to be in the license lottery. How is our lottery going to be conducted? The Kentucky Lottery Corporation. We've partnered with them, signed a contract. They are the experts in this. They've been doing it for about 35 years now. They even do it on Christmas, which I did not know. We won't have the ball machine, unfortunately. I know a lot of people were excited about the ball machines. We'll not have the ball machine. But we're very excited about that. How will that occur? It will all be publicly available. We'll provide the applicant information. So we'll have a list that's identified. We will provide that list to our general counsel. The general counsel will de-identify the list and provide the de-identified list to the lottery corporation, who will then run the numbers on a randomized draw machine. And that will all occur right here in Louisville. It'll be publicly viewable. They will provide the results of those draws again to us. We will re-identify them and then announce the selectees. Selectees will have 15 days to go ahead and pay their initial license fee. So moving on, local government, and I'll try to cover this quickly. So local governments, what can you do? Everybody starts in. You can opt out. How do you opt out? Well, you can opt out by ordinance, or you can opt out by putting it on a ballot. Some folks have already opted out. Some folks have opted to put it on the ballot, and other folks have said they're staying in. If a county opts out, cities within that county can opt back in. If you opt out, you're opting out of everything. So, want to put that out there. So next thing, if you opt out, citizens within your jurisdiction can put it back on the ballot through a petition. House Bill 829, which we talked about a little bit, raised that threshold from 5% of the voters to 10%. Next, policies for schools. School boards can make a decision about whether they want to be part of this. So again, do schools want to allow students that have serious medical conditions and have gone through the process of proving that to have access to their medicine in that school district? Jefferson County just voted on this. Voted yes, they're going to allow medical cannabis. It's our largest school district, obviously, and you all know that. So we'll see what school districts do around the state. They have until December 1 to do that policy. Policy has to have a couple things. First of all, if they're going to allow it, it cannot be within sight of any student at any time, except for the student to whom it's being administered at the time of administration. Students can't administer it to themselves. They have to have a school nurse or an administrator, adult administrator there to ensure that it's administered to them. So very, very important pieces there. I want to move on to some of these. So again, with local governments, so if you're in, you can put time, place, and manner restrictions on how these businesses are going to operate in your community, just like you would any other business. And then, of course, any ordinance or regulation that applies to all businesses in your community, that will, of course, apply to cannabis businesses as well. If you allow medical cannabis, you can establish what are called reasonable fees for the administration of cannabis businesses. That's not defined in the law, so I will leave that up to you all, to decide what's reasonable. And then finally, if you allow medical cannabis businesses to operate in your jurisdiction, you cannot enact ordinances that make it essentially impossible or impractical for these folks to do business. So if you're allowing them, you gotta allow them. With that, there's some more stuff in here about patients, but I know that our time is limited, so I do want to get to questions. So does anybody have any questions about what we've talked about?
I have 5.
Okay,
So you, on dispensaries, you said only 1 per county? So
That's
how many-
correct.
So Jefferson can only have 3 and Fayette 3?
Jefferson gets 2.
They get 2 and no more.
That's right.
Now, of course, I'm sure we all noticed that our area basically is our KIPDA region.
That's correct.
So we'll have 4 to distribute among the other 6 counties.
That's right.
Okay, so no more than 1 per county, so 2 of us is not gonna get one, and the rest of us will have. Well, 1 of us won't get one, the rest of us could have one.
Unless, of course, there's a
No,
situation
two,
where
two,
like the
two.
county opts out or.
Right, unless that. All right, so you're not gonna allow any cannabis grown out of state put into product to be sold in Kentucky?
That's correct. So everything, and so one of the important reasons why the timeline for licensing needed to be moved up is because all the cannabis that is going to be part of the medical cannabis program here in the Commonwealth has to be grown, processed, produced, transported right here in the Commonwealth. It cannot cross state lines. And that's because it is regulated at the federal level by the DEA and obviously the Justice Department.
Now, if a county chooses to put it on the ballot, that's gonna roll it up until November.
That's correct.
So they're only gonna have a month to get all this stuff together to roll out January 1.
So I understand where you're going. So we provided flexibility in our law and in our regulations. We understand that timeline is tight, and it's likely that there won't be very much cannabis at the initial stages of 2025 and maybe even into Q2 of 2025. However, you also have to, I think, consider the fact that at the same time, folks will just be getting to apply for their medical cannabis cards. We have 30 days in which to approve those. So this will be getting them towards that middle of the year time when there should be cannabis on the shelves in most of the state.
All right, one other fact, if you add up the square footage of all the growers you're gonna allow in the whole Commonwealth of Kentucky, that's about a little over 3 acres worth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I used to have, when I used to grow tobacco, I had a tobacco greenhouse that was almost 2,500 square feet.
Mhm.
And these plants cannot be grown in the earth, they have to be grown in pots or in hydroponics. I mean, I don't know how much a pot plant produces. So, but is this gonna be enough to supply the need, 3 acres for the whole state?
Yes,
Y'all are sure of
yes.
that? Okay, and then I guess if you do come up short, you can add the tier 4 grower.
Yes, so our law provides significant flexibility in this space. We understand that factors may change what the amount of square footage is that we need. So for example, let's say that the Board of Physicians and Advisors makes a recommendation that the General Assembly should expand the qualifying conditions. Let's say they added anxiety, right? Now we're all cardholders, right? Let's say they had anxiety and it significantly increases the population of folks that, are cardholders here in the Commonwealth. Of course, under that circumstance, we know that, hey, we have more people that are gonna need to buy this product. We're gonna need more square footage. We can issue new licenses. We can issue a tier 4 license. Or we can allow existing licensees to up to triple the amount of growing space that they currently have. So there's some flexibilities there, and we can watch the number of our cardholders as they come in and make those determinations as we go.
Do you know if this is my last question, the Kentucky Tobacco Research Development Board at UK, I used to serve on that. And I remember a study of, you could take a tobacco seed. If y'all haven't seen a tobacco seed, it's like tiny. A spoonful is 4 acres of tobacco. We'll grow 4 acres. We'll fill a giant barn with thousands and thousands of pounds in 5 months. But you could take a tobacco plant and in like 30 days, you shoot them with carbon in the air and they mature and produce flowers. Well, what about, I mean, have universities done studies on how to more productively produce? And then the THC will be affected growing of the plants. Have
Yes.
universities done those studies?
Yes, some universities, and there have been studies around the country on that. And I know that the University of Kentucky is actually looking into getting their DEA license to grow on site. That's the UK Center for Cannabis. And so they're looking into that. The other thing to consider, I know your line of questioning is sort of around production, is that because this is indoor growing, there's multiple harvests during the year.
Yes.
So that's gonna impact that as well. Did you have any other
No, that's
questions?
it, that's fine, thank you.
All right, does anybody else have, we got one right here.
Excuse me, on the, 4 licenses for the other, let's say 6 counties in our region here. And I believe you said something about a lottery. Everybody that, is qualified to be a license holder has to go into a lottery, okay? In the lottery, I assume that, do these people, list where they would like to have their store?
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll say we draw 4 for this region and all 4 want to be in Shelby County. Is that possible?
So no, it's
No.
not. Thank you, Dave, thank you. We're gonna have to add you to the presentation.
I didn't say my county, I said yours, so, yeah.
So the answer to that is no. Well, one of the things, and this is sort of tangentially related to your question, that we get asked, is like, well, what if, you know, County A opts out after you've issued a license to that jurisdiction? We've got flexibility in our regulations to allow folks to move to a jurisdiction which allows medical cannabis. So we'll allow folks to move to jurisdictions that comport with the rules they have.
And you're saying there's going to be a maximum of 2 stores in Jefferson County.
That's right.
And then on to the questions of the local government here, as far as what time, place and manner. It seemed like that was okay till we got down to the bottom. Said a county cannot regulate in an unreasonable way. Who determines what's unreasonable as far as ordinance restrictions and fees?
Well, a circuit judge would do that after presumably a licensee was to file a suit. So who determines what an undue burden is? That will be as between the licensees and the local government.
All right. So would you say that we yesterday, Oldham County turned down on the second reading, an ordinance to prohibit sales in the county? It lost, the ordinance lost 5-4, so we're in. Now the question is, came up about putting this in, where's it going to be? We don't want this in the downtown of our main section with a lot of flashing lights and flags.
Sure.
What about an office, a place in an office park with a door on a sign on the door that says Eagle Pharmacy? It seems like everybody who wants this product is going to find out from their position where to get it, where it's available. We don't need to be advertising it to kids and passers-by.
So 2 things, and both great points and good concerns as well. So the General Assembly addressed a lot of those concerns with respect to advertising. We have an advertising regulation as well that tracks very closely with what the General Assembly said. It prohibits most advertising. So, you know, the wacky waving and inflatable alarm blowing tube man, you're not gonna have one of those outside of your dispensary. This is supposed to be a pharmacy-like experience, so that's prohibited. So moves that off to the side a little bit. I think there was another piece here.
With the advertising and then what else did I say?
The location.
Location, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, we don't want it in a business district, we want it in some quiet place.
So to your point about, you know, folks being able to know where these locations are, we'll make those addresses available on our website when the time comes, so that folks know where they need to go, so.
Judge, you should address those in your zoning regulations.
Well, I think that's why I passed yesterday, because we felt that we could control it
Yes.
through planning and zoning. Not to run it out of business, but to have a close control on where it's available and how the advertising runs, and we're not fees are fine. We'd like to get our share there, but
We've got to, I think you raised your hand first. I'll come right back to you.
Real quick, when you say opt in and opt out, is that for those four different categories, cultivator, producer, or dispenser, or can we develop our codes independent of each of those types of areas of this?
So the way that it's written, it's all or nothing. You're either opting out of cannabis business operations or you're not. Yeah, that's a good question. We've been asked that before as well. And KLC has the same.
I walk into the dispensary. Am I gonna walk out with either gummy, oil, or what?
Well, that depends entirely upon you. Actually, we can skip ahead to some of the patient related pieces here. To talk about that. Here you go. So this is the amount of medical cannabis that you can get. This is set forth in regulation. This is based on advice that we've gotten from the Board of Physicians and Advisors and the Kentucky Center for Cannabis and others. So vaporization, cartridges, nebulizer solutions, edibles, pills, capsules, oils, liquid beverages, tinctures, suppositories, dermal patches, and then gels, creams, lotions, ointments, cosmetics, and soaps. Those ones in the last column do not count against your allotment.
So with vapor cartridges, you can smoke it.
You can vaporize it.
I spent 30 years into the back industry, you can smoke it.
Just don't inhale.
I think your question is for the General Assembly on that.
So, no, I was told you cannot smoke it, but if you can vapor, you're smoking. And that's my question, so.
I've got two questions.
So, yeah, so, to your point, raw plant material can be sold, and it's actually stipulated in our law, not our regulation, that raw plant material can be sold in a dispensary. Again, we prohibit the sale of anything that would allow that to be smoked, so there's no pre-roll products, no joints, no blunts, anything like that. No lighters, no rolling papers, nothing like that.
So you sell the bud though, you sell the leaves and the buds.
They can sell raw plant material.
To roll it yourself then as a particular patient.
People drive through or drive beyond the speed limit all the time.
Yes.
I can't control what they do. Do break the law. Some folks will. There are ways to use raw plant material that comport with our law. That includes making home edibles. That includes brewing things in teas. And actually the teas and the edibles are specifically spelled out in the statute is examples of things that you can do.
What about regulations for banking, Sam?
What do you mean?
Are banks gonna be able to take money from these companies?
So there are,
That's a problem in the hemp industry.
So the Safer Banking Act is something that's, and I think we've got a gentleman here that's works with one of our congressional leaders. But we have a bill that's out in Congress right now, it's the Safer Banking Act, and it would allow for cannabis businesses to deposit their funds with traditional banks. Currently, there are banks that do accept cannabis or funds from cannabis businesses and other financial institutions in a lot of states. There's state credit unions that will do that. So there are banking institutions that do take funds from cannabis businesses, but that is a federal issue related to the FDIC and some other issues there. So. Yeah, so we'll wait and see on safer banking. I think it's an iteration of it has been in Congress for a couple years now, so we'll see on that.
I know it's been a problem throughout the industry with people having hordes of cash sitting around, so.
Yep, absolutely.
The other question I have is, can you be a cultivator, a processor, and a dispensary?
That's a good question. No. If you apply, you have to pick the category that you want to be in. You're either applying to be a cultivator. If you apply to be a cultivator, you can apply to tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Ostensibly, if you were to win the lottery, so to speak, for all three, you would have all three licenses. However, if you apply to be a cultivator, you cannot also apply to be a dispensary or apply to be a processor. We have, again, flexibility built into our regulations. So at a certain point in time, based on a number of factors, we can allow folks to essentially graduate from being a processor or being a cultivator into that hybrid producer license. We can also issue producer licenses to folks. So that's where there's some vertical integration there. We allow complete horizontal integration in our system. So for dispensaries, for example, you can apply once in all 11 regions, and nothing prohibits you from buying another license in the same category type.
Will employers be required to allow you to use during working hours?
No, so that's a great question and one we get quite a lot. So I would direct you to KRS 218B, and I think it's 040, and it talks specifically about the interplay between employers and employees. There's significant protection in this law for employers. For example, you can require a drug-free workplace. So you can require drug testing. There's a number of things that employers can do with respect to this. So a lot of employer protections. A lot of states that started with medical cannabis programs and now have adult use programs, particularly on the West Coast, they're starting to move more towards employee protections. But that's something that hasn't yet stayed more towards the West Coast. Anyone else? Questions? Yep, you got one.
Yes, I do. Who is gonna determine how much these products are gonna cost? Is that gonna be your office or the distributor?
We do not set the price. Dispensaries will make those determinations.
So are they given a limit on what they can charge, or they're just,
No, it's up to them. We have no authority to set prices or cap prices.
Okay, the other question I have is, if the employer or employee
That's what I was saying.
can decide that you can't use it at work, why don't we have those same type of limits for the school? You said that nurse or administrator can give it to students. Who's gonna keep track of if a nurse or administrator gave it to a student at school and then their parents give them more when they get home? Is there any way of putting some limits on that?
On
Whether they get it at school or whether they get it at home or both, or?
So physicians control what's in the written certification. The written certification is basically like the prescription that someone would get. And of course, it is up to the parents. So first of all, minors can't purchase it. So I can show you the card that they would get. It's a red card, doesn't allow them to purchase. They can't go into the dispensary. They have to have a caregiver, which would be like a parent or a legal guardian, purchase it on their behalf. The amount of medical cannabis that they have is set by a physician. And unlike with an adult like myself, yourself, minors have to go to two physicians before they can actually get a written certification. So there's some restrictions there. Also, schools can decide, one, we don't want to have a policy on this, we don't want to allow it. And two, if they do allow it, they have to write in that policy that the nurse or school administrator can personally opt out, say, I don't want to administer medical cannabis. Do want to point out on that point that schools currently administer a number of medications to students, all the way up to opioids for folks that have acute medical conditions, and broken leg or torn ACL or what have you. So this medical cannabis is being treated a little bit different. I think you got a question.
Yes, sir. When you say the reasonable fee, when I first heard this presentation, I heard you say that whatever we was going to use to police it or whatever, is that the only reasonable fee that the county could?
So it's associated with the administration of medical cannabis business operations in your jurisdiction. So That is up to the local government to decide what is involved in the administration of medical cannabis business operations in your jurisdiction. So it's up to you to decide.
But we're not going to be the policing agency.
No, we are. So we have, as I mentioned, an entire enforcement and compliance team. Our executive director has about 10 years of experience in the cannabis industry, which basically makes him a dinosaur in this industry. We've hired on assistant director who has extensive law enforcement experience. And we will be out visiting all of these locations across the Commonwealth on a very regular basis. We also have, and what I didn't mention, is a track and trace system. So we know where every bit of medical cannabis that's grown, processed, produced, or dispensed here in the Commonwealth, where it is in the supply chain or who it was dispensed to. It's important to note that. Because we can track if there's, for example, an adverse event, we can track that all the way back to the source. If there was some leaching of medical cannabis into the illicit market, or it got in the hands of somebody it wasn't supposed to, we can find out who it was sold by and sold to.
Any other questions?
I got two more.
All right, Mike, that's
So-
7 on you now.
Yeah,
That's
7.
on count.
Yeah, I get my quota, thank you. So if the county, and we voted to opt in Spencer County, we're in.
Yep,
Now, what if my city, can they opt out?
they can.
Okay, I knew that if we opted out, they could opt in, so it works both ways.
Where's the place?
Next, can you have a drive-through window at a dispensary?
Yes, you can. So, just like a pharmacy, many of you all go to Walgreens, there's a drive-through spot. But they have to do all of the same security checks, that they normally have to do if you were buying it in the dispensary. So when you purchase, if you're an individual who's purchasing medical cannabis in the Commonwealth, go back. All right, these are what our cards look like. They are digital cards. First things first, there's a barcode here. That barcode is associated directly with that individual. It is scanned by the dispensary. So either at the drive-through window or when they're purchasing at the counter, that will immediately deduct the amount of medical cannabis that they're purchasing from their allotment. You see that QR code on the bottom right-hand side? We put that there specifically for law enforcement. So law enforcement officers can check to see the validity of the card. The cards cannot be fake. They can't be counterfeited. They are digital. They have all of the patient's information on there as well. When the QR code is scanned, pops red or green, tell the law enforcement officer that this is a valid card or this isn't a valid card. Law enforcement officer doesn't have a smartphone. Our phone number is on there. Answer 24 hours a day.
One more question. Does it have to be a Kentucky doctor? Can it be a doctor in New York?
Yes, has to be a Kentucky physician. Authorized to write certifications for a physician by the Kentucky Board of Medical Licensure or an APRN from the Kentucky Board of Nursing. And they are beginning to, or their applications for authorization are posted for KBML right now. And for KBN should be posted Monday. I forgot to mention with this, so this goes back to the security question about, buying at a drive-through window. You cannot purchase with, so you'll notice that there's not a photo ID on here. You cannot purchase without this and a government issued photo ID.
You made a copy of this presentation for this board.
We already have. Okay. I think we got a PDF.
I'll share it out after the meeting.
And I've got business cards. Call me anytime, email me anytime. I'd be happy to get back to you directly on an individualized basis.
We accept in Shelby County. We put on a charge per gram. And I don't know whichever way to measure this, but a charge per gram, is that a fee or is that a tax that the county is putting on?
That's a great constitutional question.
And
I don't have the answer to
because I see it coming in court.
It's a fee.
I don't have the answer to that question. But I would imagine that the cannabis business that would be licensed in your jurisdiction would be very interested in that. And I'm sure that they would be talking to you about it.
Sam, is there not language in the regulations that says the fee that the county or the local government can place can't be any more than the licensing fee?
There's nothing in that system.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Did I talk y'all out?
No, you gave us a very good presentation. We thank you for coming. There's a lot of us have questions about all.
You all done real good a couple weeks ago in Lexington also. Oh, you guys.
Okay, the next item is, Transportation Policy Committee and.
All right. The TNC, we met in this room at 12:30, just prior to this meeting today. I'll go over some of the agenda items we spoke about. First, I want to say that we had 16 out of 18 members there, and that's I told the TPC that's probably record attendance, and we thank you all, for those of you on the TPC, for your continued support of our TPC. So thank you all for being there. Couple of items of note, Kentuckians for Better Transportation, Jennifer Kirchner, a lot of y'all know Jennifer Kirchner. Jennifer is the executive director of that operation. She came and gave us a talk about some of the transportation related things in Frankfurt this session. We talked about some of the initiatives that KBT is going to be championing going forward and in this past session. So, things like the motor fuels tax, we talked about how that's kind of the issue of our time. When vehicles are getting twice the miles per gallon they used to get and driving more BMT, we're still getting the purchasing power of that motor fuels tax is less and less and less and less, and it's eroding over time. So that really is an issue of our time. So it's a great presentation from Jennifer. For those that haven't been before, they host a conference, KBT hosts a conference in the wintertime. So I would encourage you to consider attending in the wintertime. It's usually at the Call House, if I'm not mistaken. Brady Hill presented our MPO dedicated cost increases. There's a few projects that needed a little bit extra funding, and so the TPC accommodated those today. Importantly, also what Brady talked about was our call for projects. Our call for projects over the last couple of iterations of it has been a 2-year call for projects. Once every 2 years, we make about 2 years worth of MPO dedicated funds available. So this year, this go around, there's going to be about $51 million federal funds available for the projects. For the applicant projects for funds that would be funded with the funding under the TPC's control. That's in Kentucky. In Indiana, it's going to be in the range of $12 to $15 million. There's one project, one of the jurisdictions that may be locally funded over the next year or two. That would increase the amount by about $3 million to $15 million. So a lot of money. I said during the meeting, we ask all the time, when do you have funding available? Now's the time we have funding available. So August 1st, that application opens. October 31st, that application closes. So 90 days coming up here, late summer, early fall. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or give us that. We got an update on the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. Remember, that's the safety efforts, regional action plan that virtually every agency in this room is a part of. Some announcements on that front. In lieu of the July 10th Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee, we are going to be having a steering committee meeting, our steering committee number 2 meeting of that for Safe Streets and Roads for All. That'll be hosted in this room at 1 o'clock on the second Wednesday of July. Also, and most of you all should have received an email from me today. We're going to host later in July a series of one-on-one meetings. Remember, July 10th will be everybody in this room meeting with KIPDA staff and the consultant group on the week of July 22nd. Either in Jeffersonville, if you're an Indiana community, or you can come to KIPDA if you want to on July 23rd or 25th, 22nd, 23rd, and 25th. First day in Indiana, the second 2 days here at KIPDA. That's one-on-one. That's your agency. It's you as an elected leader, plus your police chief, plus your road supervisor, et cetera. Anybody that has some good opinions and thoughts about what the high crash areas are in your community. Our consultants have been working kind of behind the scenes. You haven't heard much from us about this lately. But they've got a tremendous dashboard that's being built for each and every one of your communities. That's going to show data-driven analysis that will be the backing of, the highest crash intersections in Spencer County or Henry County, Trimble County, et cetera. So that is a pretty exciting thing. So that's the week of July 22nd. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. I think that's about all I have. Again, recognizing July 10th. Group meeting, July 22nd, 23rd, 25th on SS4A. the July 25th TPC meeting, for those that didn't hear it during the meeting, we're gonna cancel that meeting and move the safety meeting, so there will be no TPC in July. We'll get back at it in August. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Andy, I see gas tax goes down in July 1.
I think that's right. I think it has to do with the index, the factor of it. And that's, you know, again, one of the things that Jennifer mentioned and one of the things that she and her agency is lobbying for is that index is based on an index of the cost of either the crude oil or the gasoline. Well, that's okay. That's kind of old fashioned, but what those dollars go to pay is highway construction, it's for highway construction. Well, the inflation on highway construction is as great or probably greater than grocery store inflation, or whatever you call it. And so if you can't just raise the tax, can you change what you're indexed to? Would that be a win? And so that's something that's sounds like it's being explored. Because and again, that would be a way around, you know, increasing it as a tax, per gallon tax. Remember, we're driving we're driving fewer gallons, right? Our cars are getting twice as much fuel mileage, as they used to, and that's gonna continue to erode revenue and erode the purchasing power as there's inflation in the highway construction.
I think they've been preaching that we're gonna go to electric cars ever since I was much 12 years and I heard it then. So we need to revamp how we're doing it, but we're still revamping, I guess, because nothing has changed.
You know, you know, what's being explored in some, I think, other states, I think Western states, we talked about how Western states are leading the way on some of these other things that we were just talking about. A VMT fee, so instead of paying 150 or whatever it is for an electric vehicle, instead of paying 30 cents to Kentucky and 20 cents to the feds or whatever it is for a gallon of gasoline, we pay a penny per mile. That'd be fair. Be tricky to administer, but it'd be fair.
What the trucks do now.
Yeah, so things like that almost have to be explored. There's no way we can continue to fund the things with the way that they've traditionally been funded. She noted that this session that there was in Kentucky, there was a $450 million transfer from the general fund into the road fund. And that's very true at the federal level as well, that the new infrastructure law from a few years ago, for the first time, or far more than ever, you know, general fund revenues are going to pay for transportation, and it has to do with the purchasing power, I guess, if you will, of the motor fuels tax. There's not enough motor fuels tax to pay for just the maintenance of the roads, let alone the new things, right? Again, lose my word. I think I got a question.
Yeah, I know.
I have a transportation question. How long does it take to Frankfurt to tell the counties they can use the flex money, discretionary money? I mean, that's to anybody in the room.
It's a good question and probably answered best by the transportation captain.
Because if, for example, last year we wanted some paving done and Mago won our bid, well, they was busy other places blacktop. And I finally got them about Halloween and we didn't get everything done. So I wanted something better than that. And then now they're ready to work. We're using our budgeted money here right away. And then the discretionary and the flex, I gotta wait for Frank. And I wanna get the blacktop done. And so
I apologize, the only way.
that's fine. I'll come back. All right.
Any other questions for Andy? I'll entertain a motion to accept his report.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, 2025, Trip Spark contract. Elizabeth.
I'm asking for approval to enter into our fiscal year 25 Trip Spark contract. This is our Ride Pro software for the Every Penny Accounts regional rideshare program. This is our front end, back end, everything in between software, it's customer interfacing, our admin modules, our hosting, everything put together for a total of $49,200 for fiscal year 25. Does anybody have any questions or needs any additional, this is actually, we've been with, Trip Spark, for probably 20 years. So they are the only, vendor for the type of management that we utilize. We have custom modules for maintenance and for our billing. So we've already paid for, previously. So this is our, amendment number 7 to our original contract. Again, $49,200 for fiscal year 2025.
What have we paid for? What are paying for right now?
We pay it every
Same
year.
thing,
Same thing.
motion.
Thank you.
Now, here's a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to, renew the Trip Sport contract. Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're up again, number
Okay.
9. Every commute counts advertising contract.
Yes, our advertising contract. So I'm asking for $25,000 approval to expend up to $25,000 for the next 6 months in advertising. During the pandemic, we pretty much eliminated all advertising, that being digital, print, any kind of advertising for our program, to kind of regroup everything, bring it in, get our financials back in order. Previously, contracts going into fiscal year 21, I mean, we had a advertising contract of $150,000. Moving forward fiscal year, and then fiscal year 23, 24, we had 0. So we're kind of getting our feet wet. We're looking at iHeartMedia and the Charter Communications Spectrum. We have a lot of collateral that we had created back when we rebranded our program in fiscal year 18, that July 2019, that we have not been able to really utilize because unfortunately 6 months later we shut down, and ride sharing really wasn't a cool thing to do with a pandemic. So we're wanting to use our media. We have several videos. I think that you saw, TPC saw some videos at the last meeting. We have digital displays. We have pretty much anything that you can imagine to encourage sustainable commuting, van pulling, biking, walking, any of that that we want to use. So we're going in easy. 6 months, $25,000, just see what we get. If we do not have a return on investment that we feel is worth it, then we'll pull back after that 6 months. But just to kind of ease into the game a little bit more, and as many of you know, grassroots advertising just isn't, you got to pay to play now, unfortunately, with all social media. So 25,000, 6 months, and we will reevaluate, and I'll come back to you and let you know what we found out and the results of how we did.
And this is included on page 37 in your handout, and I think it's important to note that the 19,200 are federal dollars that are coming through the program. Your local match component is paid through the Vanpool fares that we recoup. So when she's requesting that 24, it doesn't come out of our operating budget. It's
Yes, and that's for all of my programs. For even the Trip Spark contract, I do not use local dues for my match, for my program.
Let's go to iHeart Radio or iHeart. Isn't that primary WHAS in this local area? So this will be a contract with WHAS, even though it'll be under iHeart.
I think predominantly, plus in some of those iHeartMedia radio stations.
Yeah, it would be radio. It would be most radio and not necessarily TV. TV is extremely expensive.
And in the past, we were working with another firm. So
We were.
basically what Elizabeth's doing here is cutting out that middleman. So this is going directly to the media buy.
Then we're not paying that 7.5% upcharge.
I'm in Facebook and, I thought some of these are pretty cheap. Get lots of impressions for, below $200 on a radio spot real quick. And, what'd they say,
Yeah. It adds up.
They say radio ain't cheap.
That's what, right. Well, I mean, you gotta really just keep hammering, hammering. I mean, that's, most expensive, operation in town as far as, people. I don't know.
Yeah, and we're trying to definitely cast a net on a wider audience, especially with everything that's going on with TARC, that hopefully we would be able to, engage and educate, those folks that, and employers, tremendous, like target those certain, zip codes that have been affected by the TARC cuts and employment areas that would benefit us.
Any other questions for Elizabeth?
How will you know if you're successful?
Good question. We will track it by the number of clicks to our website and how long those folks are actually looking at our website. So part of our federal funding always is education and outreach. So looking at it in that perspective, as people go to our website, what pages are they utilizing? How many calls are we having? How many people are we having registered during that time? And very interesting that we want to connect is, before, I know that you've heard presentations on our streetlight software, which we can probably talk a little bit more. We want to kind of target to see if the folks that are communicating with us from certain zip codes does that correlate with our streetlight data in congested areas? Does that make sense? Yes. So we would like do a kind of a cross analysis as well. So it'd be very interesting when we're able to map it all out after 6-7 months. It may not even have any, it may not even match, but what if it does? It's even more exciting.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion? Either way. Second,
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second to, do this advertising, all in favor? Any opposed? Opposed. We have one opposed, okay, motion carries. You're still up.
Okay, so one of the things that we have noticed over the past year is the number of minor accidents, speeding violations, not necessarily violations, but let's say complaints with our vehicles. So we are looking at just a request for information, request for qualifications for GPS devices to be put on our vehicles. So we may be able to monitor and deter speeding for our drivers. As you know, our drivers that are part of our fleet are volunteers. They're actually part of the commute for our van pool program. So we have a 3-strike you're out rule. If you have any kind of violations, complaints whatsoever, but minor, I guess just a lot of backing into things, or just having like hitting mirrors on the road, and we don't know if it's just society today, if it is just, what it is, but we're looking at if GPS and being able to monitor where our vehicles are driving, everything about that they say that they're supposed to be driving, if that would help, bring this down, if it would encourage, insurance is really our #1 cost for our program. Give you an idea, at 130 vehicles in our fleet, we paid $80,000 10 years ago. We now have 49 vehicles in our fleet, we pay $150,000 a year. So insurance has gone up. So every single claim that we have is just more and more expensive. And these have not even been like major claims. These are just the little stuff that are over that threshold of $500, because as you know, every part, every side, everything that has to do with the vehicle is more expensive now. So we don't know if this will help, it will hurt. We are not asking for to actually purchase the GPS system. This is just simply a information qualifications request, that we want to put that out there and just see what we can get back, so that we don't have a whole bunch of salespeople that are coming to us, that are trying to sell us without, knowing what is available throughout the industry.
This is just checking out information, so I'll make
Yes.
a motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, discussions? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I'm done.
Next item is JFA funds contract, Felicia.
This will be on page 39 of your packet, so I'm requesting board approval for the fiscal year 25 joint funding administration contract with the Commonwealth of Kentucky. This is in the amount of $550,000, $599,599.26. And of course, it's JFA funding is what kind of, funds my, division, which will, you get grant writing, technical assistance, and we do our regional planning council and the comprehensive economic development strategy. That is our budget, so we can offer these services to our local community. So action is requested to enter into a contract with the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Motion. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you very much.
Next item, Spirit of Kentucky Award. Jennifer.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to talk about the KIPDA Spirit of Kentucky Award. That's a statewide award that will be presented at the Governor's Local Issue Conference in August. It's presented to the sponsors of a public project that best represents an innovative expression of multi-jurisdictional cooperation resulting in successful and cost-effective utilization of public resources. And nominations can only be submitted by the board of an area development district. We would like to nominate the city of Hillview for its project, the new Joan Edens Resource Center. We've got a handout in the packet, and you can see that on the screen as well. This center is located next to the new Hillview Police Station, and it provides space for several nonprofit organizations, including a food pantry, substance abuse treatment, court-appointed special advocates for children, job training, an organization that serves developmental disabled individuals, and a senior center. It's housed in a former grocery store, so it also represents a redevelopment of a vacant property that was in the city. Bringing all of these resources together to serve resident needs in a comprehensive way was the vision in large part of Mayor Jim Edens and the Hillview Police Department. And it was greatly supported by Judge Summers and others in Lake County, as well as many, many others throughout our region. It exemplifies the type of cooperative public project that the Spirit of Kentucky Award recognizes. Thus, we would like to submit a nomination for City of Hillview. It's due June 30th, and so we would like to ask the board for its approval to do so. And so action is requested. Unless there are any questions first.
Motion. Anyone have any questions, discussion? We have a motion, do we hear a second? We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, hazardous mitigation program grant funding, Ryan.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Just have a couple of really quick updates. So this first one is related to FEMA's hazard mitigation grant funding. On May 22nd, FEMA declared a major disaster incident period for the state of Kentucky for, the incident period was April 2nd. It was for the straight line winds, tornadoes, landslides, and mudslides that affected the Commonwealth period. So, being that FEMA has declared this disaster, they're opening up hazard mitigation grant funding for projects in the state. Obviously, with this funding, the priority will be given to projects that are directly related to the disaster that occurred. But if anybody has any other projects or ideas that they would like to put in forward, feel free to reach out to me. We can get a project profile put together. That is it for that update.
Okay, you're up for the next item, also number 14.
Yes, and then this one is just an update about the community energy resiliency project that I've been working on for the last 5 months or so. We had our second stakeholder meeting here at KIPDA Brooklyn and virtually on June 17th. This project was related to assessing the backup energy capacity of critical facilities in our region. So basically, what critical facilities have access to backup power in the event of a power outage. I went over some of the results from that survey and presented it to our stakeholder group. And then kind of following up, and then the last step of that project, I'll be submitting a final report to the Energy and Environment Cabinet on July 30th. I will be collecting some mitigation actions, trying to get one for county and really as many as possible, but at least one per county, and then trying to get one per city in our region as well, which is a lot. But if anybody knows of potential projects in your communities, or things that you'd like to have me submit in that report, feel free to reach out to me about that as well. And that concludes that, unless anybody has any questions.
I have a question, right?
Yeah.
I worked with the FEMA, I did apply for one of those grant funding. What's the process for that thing now, or is it? You know, like.
For the hazard mitigation?
Yeah.
Grant?
For like purchase of a generator.
Yeah, it was HMGP that you applied for?
Yeah.
Okay, and, were you working with Esther? KYE? Okay. Yeah, she would, know the status of your application currently. I'm happy to reach out to her.
If I can get it, I just ended up heard if that part of that review.
Yeah, that would be her. If you've already submitted it, she would know the status there.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions, Lloyd? Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Next item, Division of Social Services, Kershaw.
Good afternoon. Let's start with our FY 24 Division of Social Services Business, agenda item 15 on page 42. Since last month, our last meeting, Dale has been permitted to request a no-cost extension to utilize ARPA funds through the end of September 2025, not September 2024, as we were previously told. So at the last board meeting, I asked you all to approve an award for wheelchair accessible vehicles for several of our outer counties. And we're asking for your approval to cancel that RFQ and reissue it again, because with the change in the deadlines, I believe we can get a better price for the vehicles. So our request for approval, if there's any questions. Is to approve to cancel and reissue the RFQ for wheelchair accessible vehicles.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor to cancel
Reissue.
and reissue?
Thank you all.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. The last thing for FY 24 is just, we're asking for authorization for the executive director to sign FY 2024 contract amendments as deemed necessary as we wrap up the end of the year. Don't anticipate much of anything significant. Those would be brought to the board for ratification next month.
Do I hear a second?
Thanks.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carried.
And the next, I'm sorry.
Next item, go ahead.
For agenda item 16 on page 43 for FY 25 business. And the first thing is our home care meals contract. We did issue a RFP for state funded meals, which is the language we're transitioning to. We did not receive adequate responses to that RFP, so we canceled it and we're going to reissue it. In the meantime, we would like to request approval to extend the current contract with Masterson's for 6 months for up to $125,000. Any questions?
How much does that, is that what we were paying last year?
Right, yeah, so this
On the
year
old
we
contract?
spent about $230,000 is what we're projected for the end of the year, so that's about half.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion, second? We have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next one is our Title III-B Ombudsman, Title VII Ombudsman, Title VII Elder Abuse and State Long-Term Care Ombudsman contract. We are requesting the board approval to award these contracts for FY 25 to Catholic Charities. Up to the amounts listed. So I'm going to pause for a second to note that we have not yet received our FY 2025 allocations from Dale. They are due to us by June 30th, which we were told is Sunday. So we will, these are based on, either current allocations for FY 24 or, what we suspect, particularly for state long-term care, where we are projecting those allocations to be. So, we are asking to award contracts up to the amounts listed here for, cafeterias for those individual programs. Any questions?
Any discussion? I entertain a motion.
Is this about what we've been spending on that?
So the, actually this, for Title III-B, elder abuse and ombudsman, yes, for state long-term care, that is an increase. There was quite a bit of activity, in Frankfurt advocating for increased funding. Mr. Haley, our executive director, was a key role in helping to.
I'll make a motion.
That.
Do I hear a second? I hear a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for that question. I appreciate that. So we can talk about how the ads worked really hard to get that funding increase. Next, we are requesting board approval and ratification of the Dale FY 25-26 Pond 3 contracts for Title III, Title VII, home care, Kentucky caregivers, ABRC, SHIP, and state long-term care ombudsman. They have issued the contracts. They have not issued again, we don't have the delivery orders, so we don't know what the allocations are. But those contracts have been issued and they require a pretty quick turnaround, so they've been signed, and we're asking for ratification of those contracts.
Anyone have any questions, discussion? I entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion.
Thank you. My last one. We are requesting to issue contracts for FY 25. For any contract that hasn't been rebid this year. For the total amount for up to the total amount for FY 24 for each contractor. So we just want to, those are on pages 44 and 45. There are a couple that I want to take individually, and then we can take the rest as a whole. Is there anyone here from Metro?
Deputy Mayor George is on the screen.
Thank you, sorry. I can't see that far. Put my glasses on. So Metro could abstain. We would, if it's okay to approve contracts for Louisville Metro up to the amounts funded for last year for C1 congregated, C2 home delivered meals, and C1 eligibility services.
Yes, ma'am.
Just that one for now.
Just that one? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Motion.
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor, we need you to abstain from this, so if we can get another member of the board to make that motion in second.
Oh, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries and Deputy Mayor George abstained.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next one is gonna be for multipurpose community action agency, and if those individuals can abstain that are related to those counties. This will be for contracts for FY 25 up to the amount funded for FY 24 for 3B, 3C1, 3C2, and 3C1 eligibility.
Any questions, discussions?
Which one is this for?
The 3C, and these are your meal programs, Judge. This is your congregate meals that are served in the senior centers, as well as the home delivered meals within your all's community. And
This is out. Myself and John can't vote on this, right?
Yeah.
We vote on it. Oh, I'm sorry, that's what I was asking. Which one is for?
I'll make that motion and approve that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. We have a second, and we have a few people abstaining.
Yes.
I think it's Shelby, I'm stating.
Abstain, Spencer. When Jerry is on the screen, we need to, well, I don't know if he's still up there.
Okay, engineer, you got them all, okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Sir. And, the next one would be for Tri-County Community Action Agency. So again, if we could have, I guess Henry Trimble and Oldham counties abstain. This would be for 3B, senior center. And 3B transportation, C1 congregate meals, C2 home delivered meals, and 3B disease prevention, health promotion services.
I'll make the motion. Support. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any abstains?
We're abstaining.
Okay.
And
Last one, yes.
Oh, we haven't voted yet. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Now you can.
Now I can go. Okay, thank you. So the last one would be all the rest of these, which would include all of our Title 3B, C1 and C2, so senior services, senior center services, home meals, home delivered meals, the 3D disease prevention, 3D family and caregiver. These will be contracts for Highland Community Ministries, Jewish Community Association of Louisville, Jewish Family and Career Services, Legal Aid Society, Louisville Wheels, Masters Pacific Drink as it pertains to C1 and C2. U of L Traeger. And then it also has some more internal funding for our grandparents and caregiver program, our Get There drivers, Uber Help, United Way, U of L, Center for Family and Geriatric Medicine, Bonfire, and Accessible Solutions, and those are some of the last sort of software that we did. That's the last one.
I'll make a motion to support that.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the fanfare event.
Hi, Sharon.
Beth,
I think I've Beth on there, but she was pulled away to something, so y'all get me today. How y'all doing? You all know that song, God Bless Texas, it was like way back here, so I'm sure you're presenting on a budget, I think, God bless you, should have told us little details, thank y'all for being patient, with us through that. I'm not gonna keep you too long, I just wanted to talk about fanfare, as you know, we spoke about it a few months ago. This was our 9th annual fanfare, we partnered with the Louisville Metro Office of Aging and Disabled Citizens for that primarily. I want to take a minute to really thank our sponsors. Not only do we receive a lot of monetary donations from individuals and fans from individuals, but we had a very decent amount of sponsors this year. It was very encouraging. So, WLKY has been our partner since day one. Thank you to them for the advertising they did. We did at this event this year, literally asked people as they were walking through the line, how'd you hear about this? How'd you hear about this? So that we were trying to determine, how we're reaching people. And most of them said, I saw you all on TV, and that's how we got here. So thank you to WLKY and all the work they did. We also had additional sponsors, Masterson's Catering, Gin Care, Centerwell, Dale and the Office of Dementia Services, the U of L Brown Cancer Center, Passport Aetna Connect, the National Active and Retired Federal Employees Association, AARP, Project Form, and Lowe's has been our partner since day one. They cut us a very good deal for those fans. They are present on site that day with the truck and the fans, and their staff stay out there and help hand out fans. So I just want to say thank you so much to all of them. Next year's number 10, we're just going to knock it out of the park. Thank you to all of you all for getting the word out there and helping us spread the word about that. On the day of that event at the Edison Center here in Jefferson County, we served over 300 people in a matter of 2.5 hours. So the word was out, the people got there and they were served. There were additional fans, as we traditionally have additional fans. Those went to all of the local neighborhood places in Jefferson County, multipurpose community action agency, the Tri-County Community Action Agency, and the clients we serve here. Somebody can pick up a fan here too if they need it. So just know we have box fans. If anybody in the community, 60 or over, or under 60 with a documented disability, those by each on paperwork of some sort. We're not like too stringent on that. let us know if somebody needs one, but, Beth Morgan and Ally with Louisville Metro did a tremendous job of managing this event. And I want to say thank you to, Deputy Mayor George and Deputy Mayor, James, both there all day supporting as well. We had a lot of great talks outside now, and so thank you all. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next item, caregiver program activities, Amanda.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to give you an update about National Family Caregiver Program. One of my favorite parts of my job right now is to be able to offer a deep cleaning service to caregivers. So that's where we have cleaning agencies be able to go into the caregiver homes and the care recipients' homes to help them deep clean their house. Oftentimes, when caregivers are taking care of their loved ones, they can't take care of their house too. So that's a service that we have been offering to our caregivers. We've had about 13 caregivers complete the process so far. So it's a very good service that we've been able to provide. I've gotten a lot of appreciation and thankfulness from that. So that's exciting. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you all on November 1st from 9 to 11 is going to be the second annual Aging Well in Kentucky Health Fair. We had this last year in Shelbyville at Grafenberg Baptist Church. So we're going to have that again this year, November the 1st, and I'll have flyers and vendor forms ready next month after we have our planning meeting. So if you know anybody, community partners that want to have a vendor table, and we can get you that information as well. All right.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the biggie, agency-wide budget.
Thank you.
Frida.
We're gonna go over the annual budget, and on page 46, under our operating budget, we have 13,944,292. You can see that under direct and indirect costs. And then our program related costs are 19,171,293.94. And then as a total budget, it's 33,115,586. And I just wanted to highlight a few of the differences between fiscal year 24 and 25. We have increased salaries. It's gonna be 4.5% increase. We have a decrease in our temporary services due to social services. They're not including temps in our budget this year, which is related to limitations on our KHBE contract. We have a decrease in software maintenance and license costs this year. We have multi-year contracts, and so we paid for a lot of those licenses last year, so that cost went down. We've increased legal expenses due to Medicaid potential lawsuit. Increase our advertising, which we were anticipating more advertising from the rideshare everyone commute. And then we have an increase in contract services, which is in our transportation. They have a couple more studies, or 3 more studies that they start this year. And then we have a decrease in our outreach materials due to, again, the limitations on our KHBE contract. Do we have any questions? Those are just some highlights of ones that were large differences between last year and this year.
And not to bury the big one is always the discussion on salary adjustments. This year, we have proposed 4.5% for your all's consideration. I know last year we weren't able to do what you all wanted because we didn't feel comfortable moving forward, but Frida has worked very tirelessly trying to draft this budget, and we feel we can sustain a 4.5% increase to try to catch us up in the last couple of years. So again, for your all's consideration, with a 4.5% increase. And an employee has to complete a satisfactory performance appraisal in order to be eligible for that increase. So if they are on a performance improvement plan, they're not eligible for this increase. So I want to throw that caveat in as well.
Anyone have any questions of Frida?
Oh, there it is. Oh, it's on. Very cool.
I'm gonna make a motion, move it.
Oh, okay. Had a question, what are typical like Fifth Third bank fees? I know that's not a big number in the whole scheme of things, but what type of bank fees do we pay? And then can we get interest on the checking account? Can we earn interest on money in the bank?
So we do earn interest on bank fees. Of course, you know, that's not gonna be, I mean, not bank fees, but on our cash, but of course, you know, that's not really high these days. So we don't earn a lot. A lot of our banking fees are really coming through transportation, through a special, I guess, system that they use.
Yeah, when we get when they pay for the ride share and the van pullers pay, they're paying it to swipe we'll be using a service called authorize.net, it's like a Square or whatever the competitors are.
But we are looking into seeing how we can reduce those costs. So yes, we are looking at that.
It's pretty de minimis, but, you know, I know Judge Isis and I have been talking the last couple of years about, you know, you can earn interest on your checking account. And I thought I had a real good number. I think you got a little better than me. I'm jealous, but I mean, you can get 2+. I mean, are we getting 2+?
No, not at this time. We're not.
Where are we banking here?
That's what I was gonna say. We're Fifth Third.
Fifth Third. How much cash do we have on him?
Let's see.
I can't even wait here.
Sorry. I know I have it on the first one.
Yeah, 2 should be on the low end and the high end could
I
be.
just said it earlier.
I'm sure.
Oh, there was the 1,799,805.
That's what we have on hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, how much?
1,799,805.
Well, you know, what we do is, we're getting about 5% on our money. But, no, I guess it's government funds and, but you know, I don't know if it's probably more than this, honestly, but. We sweep it right after, just a day before we meet our fiscal court, we pay our bills every 2 weeks. We make sure we've got enough money in the checking account. We tell the bank to transfer funds. And, they put in enough to pay our bills and the rest of it, sits in our investment account. So now they need, you know, some operating expense too. But it's, you know, I wouldn't say $1 million, you're probably gonna get as good a deal, or maybe you need, how much do you need to operate here on every month? You gotta have,
Yeah.
pretty good amount just to pay your bills here.
Yes, and our money pretty much comes in and goes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing, because most of us, most of the contracts are cost reimbursable, so it's
Right.
in and
As
out.
soon as it comes in, it goes right back.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
It's a lot different than fiscal courts.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, can I entertain a motion to approve the budget for next year?
You know, second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you.
Freedom. Next item, June personnel report. Megan?
That is me. It's Keiko. Yeah.
Oh, we have one more item.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, one more, sorry.
I'm getting too far ahead of myself.
I don't know. We got agency, non-health related insurance. And so we have our insurance through Keiko. Our unemployment insurance is on a calendar year, and our compensation, workers' comp and online funds are on a fiscal year. So I've broken up a little bit this time. And on our fiscal year, for this fiscal year, for our calendar year, I'm sorry, for unemployment insurance, it was $4,454.86. And it went down from last year. I'm trying to remember why. All right. We didn't have as many unemployment claims, last year, so they reduced our amount this year. And then on the workers' compensation, if you can see, I'm sorry, on page 47, hope I'm not going ahead. Fiscal year 25, we have, fiscal year 25 is $17,354.70, which was not a really large change from last year. Now, we'll have to say that on last year, when I presented it to you last year, it was 15,986. And then we had a payroll audit, and it increased another $366. So this year, when we got to the 17,000, it wasn't really a big difference. Then we have, our KCO all lines funded, all lines fund. I'm getting tired. Fiscal year 25, we have $29,185.19. So the change was, the 5,958.81, which is 18% change for our all line funds. And
So it's not really changed a lot when you add them all together, if you have the 5,500 less on the other side.
exactly. You're right.
Any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion
Motion.
to renew our insurance.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll get to the June person.
Good afternoon. We had one departure since the last board meeting. Karina Williamson resigned as person-centered service plan specialist effective the beginning of June. We have two new hires, Tony McCracken as ADRC specialist, 2 effective June 20th, and Chelsea Gibicino is hired as Michelle P. labor case manager. She is starting on Monday. We have 3 vacancies, 2 connector positions, which we've just been on hold. You've seen those last couple of months, board meetings. We've been on hold hiring those, just because of our new KHB contract. We weren't sure exactly what that was gonna look like, but I'm starting to interview for those now. We have a Michelle P. Waiver case manager position open as well. Staff count is 79 full-time, 3 part-time permanent, and 2 part-time temporary.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Thank you, Megan. Next item, board meeting scheduling discussion.
2 items. We have in the past had conflicts with the National Association of Development Organizations. Our national organization, it's the body that I sit on as the board of directors. Their annual training conference is in October, and that October meeting conflicts with our board date. I've been here for 19 years, and October 2012 is the only board meeting I've missed. So I'm asking the board to cancel our October meeting, so since I will not be here to run that meeting, so motion is requested to cancel our October board meeting.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second, to cancel the October meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
And the second item is our November meeting. If you remember, 2 years ago, 2022, when Judge Vogel was chair, we started taking the show on the road for the first time. We held that meeting at the John Black Center. Last year, we held it in Shelby County at the wonderful Shelby County Conference Center. And this year with Mayor Bowling, he and Councilmember Bowling and Mayor Tanini are going to host us at the St. Matthews Community Center on 10 Pin Lane, and that will be Tuesday, November 26th. We'll do, as we have in the past, we'll have our committee meetings in that morning, immediately followed by the board meeting, and then we'll have a lunch amongst ourselves afterwards. So we'll send out more information as it comes out, but I just want to have you all get you all to have that on your calendar. Again, November 26th. And that's all I've got.
Okay, we don't need any vote on that.
No.
Even canceling the meeting?
No, we voted on that one.
Gotcha. All right, too many items. The next item is intergovernmental reviews.
We have 5 intergovernmental reviews. These have been sent out for local review, and they can be taken together. So action is requested for the board to accept these 5 intergovernmental review projects.
Will entertain a motion.
Okay.
Second. Any discussion?
I just want to thank Jared. The railroad, at $32 million. I couldn't get the railroad to address a problem in Shelby County, and I refused to sign this item. I got a hold of Jared. Jared was able to speak with the railroad, and within 2 days, my item that couldn't have been fixed for the past 2 years was fixed. I did sign after that, but I want to thank Jared for the work he did.
So this moves into the executive director's report.
It's
So
good
this-
to have a big-
Thank you.
Oh, I guess we do need to vote on that. I apologize.
Yes, that was good discussion. Okay, I'll entertain
No, for the interjects, we already got.
we did,
The motion.
okay,
So we just need to.
just need to vote, all in favor? Okay, any opposed, motion carries. Next item, executive director's report.
First, I want to welcome James Vickery with Congressman Guthrie's office. Thanks for being here today. Is there anything you'd like to?
Sure. Yeah, thank you again for having us here. You guys are doing a fantastic job as we finish out the appropriation season. Working with many of you guys, your team did an amazing job. Right now, just to give you guys a lot of what the congressman is working on is energy related. One of his big passion projects as a high ranking member of the Energy and Commerce Committee is working on making sure we're using American energy and not just outsourcing or insourcing everything. Because as you were talking about earlier with our cost of gas, that's what a lot of our joint constituency is seeing. So a lot of the news you'll hear about Congressman Guthrie either over the last few weeks or coming up is going to be around that American energy independence. So thank you guys all for your partnership. They're part of the 2nd Congressional District. And thank you again for having us.
Thank you, James. Well, the next, we have 3 items of travel for your all's consideration. The first is the Home and Community-Based Services Conference, and that is in Baltimore, Maryland, and that would be attended by our Wayward Coordinator, Amber Rosario. The second is the Kentucky Association of Community Health Workers Annual Conference in Lexington. That would be attended by our Deputy Director of Social Services, Beth Mathis. And finally, the Southeastern Association of Area Agencies on Aging, their annual conference in Gulf Shores, Alabama in October, and that will be attended by Beth Morgan, who is our ADRC coordinator, and Tricia Forbes, our finance and contracts manager. So again, your all's consideration for those 3 items, action is requested.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, thank you all for being here. A long meeting. I think there was a lot of productive discussion with our speakers. So again, appreciate you all being here. It was great having everybody in person. So just our meetings for next month, we have the Regional Planning Council. That'll be in this room on July 9th at 11. That afternoon at 1:30, the Regional Water Management Council will meet. And then as India mentioned earlier, we will not be having the Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee next month, nor the Transportation Policy Committee. But the Regional Transportation Council will meet in this room at 1 o'clock on July 25th. And then at 2 o'clock, the July Board of Directors meeting. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Jared. Any other business to come before the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor.